Ladies and gentlemen, greetings, citizens all over the world. I want to bring some critical information out. A very powerful story. One that needs to be shared amongst everybody for a good reason. I can guarantee that any person in the world don't have to worry about being biased or far left or far right or religious, political behaviour or New Age or any of that stuff. I'm going to tell you something with basic common sense that you can all relate to. That'll make sense to all of you, no matter who you are, where you come from, or what you believe in. This is something that'll help every person in the world. Okay? Today, we're in the greatest communication breakdown in global history with stress, anxiety, panic disorders, and suffering. Every single person that's here on my platform is suffering some kind of mental disorder, stress, anxiety, confusion, frustration, delusion, or paranoia. And this is the biggest exploding thing across the world with gene defects happening worldwide. And we can't run away from this, no matter who we are, where we come from. Today, everybody's suffering from one thing or another with what's called the human conditioning. It's easier to call it the human conditioning because it covers more than 120,000 different things that we all suffer from with defective genes. Today, 77% of children are born with chronic diseases. And this has been going through our generation, from one generation to the next, accelerating, especially over the last 60 years. 1960, we only had 2% mental disorders and defects, and it's now 98%. And it's affecting all of us like a virus that's spreading across the world. Changes in magnetic fields, our fauna, animals going around in circles all over the earth, birds falling out the sky, and it's affecting all of us one way or the other, no matter who you are, where you come from, or what you believe in. It's accelerating, and it doesn't stop accelerating. A lot of people have this opinion, we're winning the war, and we're going to win, and we're going to change the whole world. But believe me, you couldn't be further away from the truth, okay? And the real truth is so hard to fathom that most people cannot deal with it, cannot face it, cannot handle it. And these are facts. It's the most avoided subject in the world. It's exactly what's going on. There are many disclosures about UFO disclosure, UAPs, aliens, all sorts of things, artificial intelligence, also called alien intelligence, by Harari, the architect himself. And we have an outside influence that has a profound effect on our reality, as declared by UAP disclosure in Pentagon last year in March. Their first disclosure said, we're just beginning to learn about different parallel worlds, different dimensional beings. Now, you know, a child, when he's innocent, he's always introduced to the boogeyman, the monster in the bed, an unexplained aerial phenomenon, but a child is innocent. And child can feel things, and sometimes you can see the shadows. And that's been reported for many years on many studies done. And they've made movies about this, like the kid in the restaurant. He sees a shadow hovering over the top of everybody except for himself. He can see the shadow. Some kids can see the shadows, right? Some people have imaginary friends, right? It's a known fact that children often have an imaginary friend. Some people have imaginary friends throughout their life, but they have to keep quiet about it, okay? Because they always get discredited, obviously. And that's the first thing people think is they're crazy, right, or paranoid. When people take drugs are known as truth serum. They often get paranoid and get chased by shadows. Look, they're all chasing me out there. Can't you see them, man? They're chasing me. They've been chasing me all night, man. You're paranoid. You're seeing things. Well, perhaps people are not seeing things because indigenous people have been using drugs their whole life in some of the villages, right, where they give kids Nebraskas at 12, 13 years old so they can see these dimensional beings. And they do it deliberately, right? So kids are aware of these dimensional beings being there and what kind of influence they may possibly have in their reality, right? Therefore, they give them Nebraskas. And often when people take drugs, they have two side effects. Either they feel like they're in heaven or they get paranoid, okay? So there are two outside influences. If you have a look at how we create a hybrid, you'll see the hybrids are created by graphene oxide gold right, through a matrix and 2 different dimensions. You can read about that. And that's literally straight up the book of creation, okay? The Gnostic web, the crossover, the 2 serpents, and what are the 2 serpents? Yin and yang, the matrix. The voices tell you to do it, and don't do it. Okay, you go to school to be mentally institutionalized with voices in your mind. Okay, then you think critically. And when you think critically, the voices tell you do it and don't do it. It's just a personality. We believe in the voice in our mind. We believe in our own truth. We manifest our own truth. We come to our own conclusion with reasoning, and reasoning is called the age of nefarious because reasoning is in the mind. It's only a personality. Consciousness is a mental event, a mental process, an illusion, imagination set up by the Rockefellers into the conscious singularity by WF. It's into the mind, mentality. And today people suffer what we call amnesia because you have a 24th chromosome with supernatural power, superhuman abilities. You can read about this. They say you can't survive with it. That's not true. 1.3% of the population is in the 24th chromosome, right? The rest is in 23. Your Y chromosome is 2 chromosomes. And the whole world's trapped in 23rd chromosome, and the 24th in dormancy. You can see it in cellular study research. But a child knows how to use it when he's 5 years old. A child's an absolute genius. He can mastermind a computer game between 3 and 7. The aura in his body cells, in DNA, is clockwise and repairs 24 hours a day. 130 nucleoside molecules and 2 molecules of metality. And he can mastermind a computer game between 3 and 7 with a natural process and a natural selection of life. But then his parents put him to school to be mentally institutionalized. Then he becomes mentally institutionalized, right, for 7 years, and everything goes anti-clockwise. The 2 molecules of metallic dies, the 130 nucleoside molecules of a genetic repair kit stops working, and now they only work 3 hours a night when he's asleep in dream time. So we get engineered to go reverse occult engineering into our mind, into mental institutionalization. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, or what you believe in. These are a fact of life that we've discovered in DNA. So by the time a child is 12, his genetic process and memory is gone. So he can't use his genetic memory anymore because he gets programmed into the mind with an IQ, with artificial intelligence, evolution mutation by atheism that's anti-clockwise. They do not know what they do and do not know any better. That's always been the problem in this world. It happened in Babylon, Persian, Greeks and Roman days, and the Pharaoh days, right? When Moses took them all out to the desert and they're all suffering the human condition with serpents in their mind. As Eckhart Tolle says, it's a hostile entity in here. And as Jeremy Griffith says, the voice of mind's ultimate sign from extinction. Okay, it's declared by 45,000 teachers and 16,000 top scholars in the world with natural selection. The book Freedom by Jeremy Griffiths is the freedom of the human condition that's going to stop all the suffering around the world. But it may take decades because of the mentality people live in. But we don't have decades. We're running out of time. We are running out of time very fast. Everything's accelerating 7 times faster. With cancer, blood clots, myocarditis, and mental disorders accelerating in turbocharged rate worldwide, and you've heard about this before. Right now, there's more suffering from confusion and frustration and communication breakdown than ever in global history. Suicide rates are going up in the kids. They can't cope anymore because they're not getting the real love, and they're looking for love in all the wrong places, mostly on screens. And screens is completely artificial. It's in the 5 sense world of people attached to screens and radio waves up to 8 hours a day. Everyone thinks there's something special being a robot and being an actor on social media platforms to make a name for themselves. And they're completely lost. And they're controlled by stress, fear, and anxiety in their body cells, in corruption, coercion, illusion in the daytime, and can only be at night time. They can only 7 to 15% of their brain worldwide in the highest IQ people in the world. Some can mastermind use 100%. And if you can mastermind use 100%, it's a God-given gift that people have no idea of. Okay, I'm one of those masterminds and one of the few only left. I can manage my mind and master my mind in such a way I can cure every single thing with my genetic process, which means I have my genetic memory, my ancestry tools, and I use them with natural selection and natural order in life. And it's completely opposite to what everybody else is doing in the whole world. And they haven't got a clue what they're doing, but they think they do, but they haven't got a clue. They seriously do not have a clue. They live inside their mind with mentality in a personality, and they cannot think outside the mind instinctively. That's why they made the movie Matrix documentary in '99. Those who think instinctively but tune out a program, they can respond 7 times faster than anyone can think. Everyone relies on thinking in their consciousness and coming to their conclusion with reasoning, all by design. Okay? And it's met with the greatest resistance across the whole world because most people are trapped beyond the point of return, trapped inside their mind and personality, and do not know what they do. Haven't got a clue. They think they do. They think they're highly intelligent with an IQ, but it only makes them good at what they do. But in fact, not intelligent. It's the opposite. Everything is the opposite. And people are finding this the greatest resistance across the whole world in massive global denial. Right? A species in denial declared 2003. They're declared to be crazy in 99 and losing their sixth sense, which is all their biofields of 27 senses. They don't even know what they're doing with IQ and living in their consciousness. And the whole world, especially Americans and sitting on a social media platform, is trapped right into the consciousness and higher consciousness. Even scholars are. But it's a mental event. It's a mental process. It's mentality. Okay? It's mentality. And they don't know what they're doing, but they think they do. They don't have mental telepathy, ESP, remote UN, telekinesis, levitation, spoon-bending, clock winding, folding space and time with deja vu to predict the future and prevent what's going to happen. And when they don't have that, they don't have clockwise thinking. They have anti-clockwise thinking, no matter what comes out of their mouth. It means they have to restore. It means they have to repair their biofields and their biosystem because it doesn't work. 85% of the brain doesn't work. When I can use 100%, you have to be in my shoes to know what's going on. Right? I met with the greatest resistance and being also shadow banned by high-tech governments and authorities because they don't want you to know. And that's why I'm being suppressed the most. Without a joke. Because the world's nefarious. It's extremely nefarious. It's possessed by an outside influence and they haven't got a care factor. They can't even feel the truth anymore. When they haven't got an aura, they can't feel the truth because they come to the conclusion in their mind with the voice of mind that tells them to do that. And they only believe in their own truth. They're obsessed with themselves and possessed with the voice inside the mind. And I know that's hardcore, but it's also the truth. And the only truth's going to set anyone free. When I came into this world as a child, at 5 years old, I told my mum about there was a moment in her life in 1945, World War II, 15 years before I was born. Okay? And she couldn't deal with that, in fact. She couldn't deal with it. Literally. And as a result from that, my mum and dad thought I was a freak of nature. They didn't know how to take me. They literally did not know how to take me. It's not that they hated me and discredited me, right? But I was a black sheep of the family because they literally did not know how to take me because I was very different than them. Very, very different. I went to school and got picked on every day at school, and I had to leave school at 12 years old for the same reason. Okay, so I was met with the greatest resistance when I was young, and I was full of stress, anxiety, panic disorder. I was riddled with panic disorder. Okay, I didn't know what was going on as a child. My parents rejected me, thinking I'm a freak of nature, and we never met up to anything. I get picked on at school every day. Teachers dragged me up by the scruff of the neck and say that I was very undesirable because I caused havoc with 20, 30, 40 people in school. They're picking on me. And then it became my fault as well by the teachers, which is astonishing, right? And every child picking on me said, my mum said, my dad said, my mum said, my dad said, and that's all I ever heard. My mum said and my dad said. And a child that's innocent going to school and they hear this from other children getting picked on all the time, my mum said and my dad said, you kind of realise what kind of parents they got. What kind of disgusting, filthy, low-life parents they have. You know, I had red hair and freckles, right? And when you have red hair and freckles, you have more nicknames than any black or gay person in the world, you know that? And you know where it all comes from? Their mum and dad, right? You know, you learn people hate red hair and freckles very, very fast when you're red hair and freckles. And people lie to you all the time. Live in a great delusional state, but you learn to feel things because a child can feel things. I was drowned in a bathtub at 2 years old, clinically dead. I was very different. I was rejected by my own father, left me at 1 year old. My second father, right, put me in microsurgery hospital, right? 16 hours microsurgery in my jaw at 16 months old. Then he drowned in a bathtub 4 months later, out of jealousy and spite. Then my father, my stepfather, rejected me, right? So I never had a real father because they weren't really normal, were they? Right? And most fathers and mothers aren't really normal, are they? Are they? Because that's why we suffer as a child. We get forced into school to be mentally institutionalized when we're innocent and we have a natural ability. So by the time we're 24, right, or 18 years old, you can see all the kids rock out of school thinking there's something special and reject their parents and call them dinosaurs. I've been watching my whole life, right? It's New Age comes through with Generation X, living in their mind, with their self-centered ego. They came through in the 90s, said, oh, old school's out, new school's in. We know better than you with IQ behaviour. We have more intelligence than you. Filthy, low-life animals they were. Disgusting, filthy, right, reptilians. Right, coming out with their mind and no spirituality at all. None, zero. Couldn't do the things that I could do. They discredited me all the time. Picked on me, right, with mental behaviour. And my mum said and my dad said. And the teachers, right, make sure that they're very competitive. They go to school to be a competitive person and to lose all their abilities. So by the time they're 24, they can only fact check Google themselves like a robot. And then when a stranger comes to the door that runs this world, the ones who mentally utilise and believe in the most, they'll come to your door and manipulate them in 10 seconds flat. And a child runs a corner because he can feel the truth, the boogeyman. The boogeyman controlling every person in the world. Because they go to school to be controlled by the boogeyman, to be mentally institutionalised. And then you know. And you know when you go to school and get picked on like this and you see the boogeyman all over the school controlling every person in the world. Oh, they love school, don't they? They love IQ behaviour, don't they? But then they come out of school thinking they're robots and something intelligent, right, with artificial intelligence. Then they become evil and do what they're told and go to work and pay the bills, right, and entertain themselves every day, sitting on screens all day, thinking there's something special in the world, thinking they're Hollywood characters and American dreamers and someone special in the world. All talk, no action. All talk with their grammar and no action. Because they haven't got mental telepathy and ESP. They haven't got remote viewing. They haven't got deja vu to predict the future, prevent what's going to happen at all. They're just all talk and no action. Now they're controlled by an outside influence on their reality. A child, as I've told you before, you go look at YouTube. A child's perfect from 0 to 7 and the aura's clockwise. A child's innocent. And a child knows a lot more than a parent does. Because they can respond 7 times faster than a parent can. With the highest IQ people in the world. So people are artificial completely. In post-human stage. And live in denial about it. Completely. Complete brain lock denial worldwide. And they don't even know why they're suffering. But they're suffering more than anyone. The same idiots. They listen to the voice of mind and only believe in themselves. Or the documents. They believe the documents evidence before they believe in the horse's mouth. Because they can't feel the truth anymore. They can't use their natural process. They have no faith in their own biological genes to use their own natural selection. They have no faith. At 24, I stamped an engine number in such a way the X-ray machine could not detect it because I can see into the future and into the past with deja vu. So I developed an engine number in such a way the X-ray machine could not detect it 5 years later. I went on the Mastermind reports, front page of paper 1992, as King Bias. 1994, right, 17 current affairs shows the Mastermind loopholes, the laws, and manipulation. I could unravel every single thing in the system. And they didn't like it. But I have a multiple perception, multiple layer. Right? I don't live in the mentality you live in. I'm designed for this very moment. I suffered stress, fear, and anxiety. I left school at 12 years old, took drugs and numbed myself. I watched half my mates die in heroin, 3 died in my arms. I flatlined myself, right, at 18 years old, clinically dead, the second time. Walked around like a zombie for a week, right, with a bad drug habit. Right? Very bad drug habit. Watching my mates die in heroin, right? Taking drugs to numb themselves because they were rejected by their parents as well and suffering the consequences from one thing or another, getting raped or bashed or whatever. So I live with kids in the street being raped and bashed, right? Mistreated by their parents. Okay, end up taking drugs to numb themselves because they couldn't cope in life. Right? The rest of the world's just a robot and couldn't care less. And that's what you learn on the streets. People don't care what you're going through. People couldn't give a shit. The ordinary civilization would rather just go to school, right, and smile all day and entertain themselves like idiots all over the world. That hasn't got any care factor at all. None. Zero. You learn that on the streets. But I can tell you this. In the 60s, there's a lot more love and a lot more connection than what you see today. In the 70s, people were talking to everyone in the streets, right, sitting on the outside the front, on the verandas, not sitting on a screen. Connected with everybody in life. More people had faith in us than I've ever seen in life. We used to walk the streets and know everybody in the neighbourhood. And everyone looked up to us, right, because we always kept the streets clean. They had more faith in us than what they had in cops and politicians because they were evil. It's a known fact. It's always been a known fact. Now everybody believes in the system today, and the cops and politicians more than anyone. It's completely the dead opposite. And they're the most evil scum of the world that molds you with agendas all the time and social engineering for your education, right? With grammar that's artificial, right? They mold you every day and cause every problem in the world with every single agenda. Gay society, which is a mental disorder, right? Child sex offenders, which is a mental disorder. 1,000 to 7,000 defective genes in every species in the world because of cops and politicians and because of their tyrannical behavior, because of their tyranny, because they're filthy, disgusting animals that are possessed by an outside influence without a care factor. And that's the cops and politicians education system. That's why they choose people in education with 125 plus IQ, preferably about 165, 185, which is brain deformity. It's a known fact. 125 plus IQ is brain deformity. People are so deformed in their brain from being programmed with school books, right, education in the screen all day, in artificial intelligence, that they think they're special. But they live in grammar. They live on their mind, and mind's a mathematical beauty to work things out with. IQ is based on 98% memory, so they live on memory. And that's the only thing they live on, what's programmed into their mind. That's the only faith they got is in themselves, and what's been programmed into their mind with artificial intelligence. Right? So everything they believe in is what they're programmed to believe in. No matter what they say. They can sit here and argue all they like, but they're following, right, the Babylonian beast from Babylon, the Persian, the Greeks, and the Roman days, and they're following the same fucking system. So they're going into sixth mass extinction, stripped from the sixth sense for the sixth time, under tyranny, under authoritarian controlling behavior, no matter how you look at it. The cops and politicians and the teachers are brain deformity. Totally deformed. Right? They're all deformed. So you're being controlled by deformity, by mental deformity. And these species don't have a care factor in real life. All they care about is money, greed, power, temptation, and controlling mechanisms. With new rules and regulations every day, new taxes every day, because they're mentally insane. They are mentally insane. Your police department, your governments, and your educational system are specially chosen with brain deformity. Right? They're artificial human beings. And you follow them every day. You follow actors on a screen. You mentally resonate. You don't follow your codependent power because you haven't fucking got any. You can't even feel the truth anymore. And I know it's hard, but it's also reality you can't face. And yet, you know what? I have the cure for every single thing you suffer from. That's saving millions of people. With the book Freedom by Jeremy Gibbs, and We're Not Breathing Break 'em, the Holy Grail of Life and the Holy Breath of Life, specially chosen for this very moment, avoided by 99% of Westerners because they're artificial and they're beyond the point of return and they follow different systems and they follow different gods without even realizing it. Without even realizing it. When I went through my life, I was rejected by mainstream. I was rejected by cops and politicians, right? By the system, by pastors and preachers and Christians as well. But they're all wrong. Every one of them's wrong. I'm a mastermind of my own mind. I can use 100% of my brain. They can't. What makes them qualified to judge me? If their body cells can corrupt collusion in the daytime and they can only be at night time, what makes them qualified when they live in their mind mentality? They got no faith in their own biological genes. I had bipolar, an uncurable disease. Uncurable. Stress, anxiety, panic disorders, manic depression. So it's uncurable, they say. Well, I cured it. I cured it and proved them all wrong. In 2008, they found my DNA that cured every single thing. Every single thing. Since then, I had a major heart attack and 3 stents fitted through brand new arteries ran without taking drugs. I was told to take for the rest of my life. Okay? I flatlined in 2012, paralysed from my neck down, told I'd never walk again, got up and walked out of the hospital. One of a kind on every study done. Okay? One of a kind on every study done for 34 years, on 7 peer reports, as a mastermind of doing things that no one else can do in the whole world by the biggest think tank. Okay? So you don't think I know what I'm doing? 99% of people don't. Well, I can cure you. I can cure every single problem you got because you can't, nor can your scholars or professors or psychiatrists. That's why everything's going through the roof and they can't cure nothing because all their book smart education is anti-clockwise with their own opinions. That's been declared by 45,000 teachers in all their educational system and all their science, right, for Parma. One thing can fix everything. And they know it. But they need the system like this to go in reverse ecology to make money because they live off you. The governments and authorities and Prama, they live off you by making you mental disorders, by programming you into mentality. That feeds every single thing the whole government runs on, and Prama, every single thing. One thing can cure every single thing in the world and completely collapse their society, and it's going to. They're going into 6 mass extinction trip in the 6th sense for the 6th time, and they're not going to get away with this. That's why they built underground military bunkers. They think they're going to get away. As the Bible says, the spineless cows go underground. Spineless cows will go underground, and they will. You heard about the nuclear warnings all over the world? New apps on the phones, new warnings. They're going underground military bunkers by 227. And everyone knows 227 is their deadline. And no one can run away from this anywhere in the world. But most people live in a delusional state to think that they know better. Well, you'll see what happens with all these actors on screens. You'll see what's happening with all these artificial human beings worldwide. Because they've got no fucking idea what's going on. None. Very few people's going to make it across the new timeline. You've heard about a great shift in humanity, or the Great Awakening. It's waking up from amnesia and the reincarnation trap. That's what people can't get. Because they're not awake from amnesia and the reincarnation trap. They're trapped inside their skull in a reincarnation trap without even realizing it. They can't use their natural process. They can't use their genetic memory. They can't use 85% of the brain. They can't use their 24th chromosome. They can't use 27 biofields, biosenses. They have 32 senses. They only live in 5 sense mentality worldwide, no matter what comes out of their mouth. They can say what they like, but their grammar and their artificial intelligence and their mental belief system will not get them out of this. They have to restore their 6th sense. That's their spirituality with dimensional thinking, remote viewing, mental telepathy, ESP, deja vu to predict the future and prevent what's going to happen. And it's a genetic process, right? We're coming in a new era, a crossover between 220 and 227. It's the last 7 years of the timeline deception, going into a new timeline of 7-fold wisdom knowledge. And no one's telling you the real truth here because they're all idiots. They're all brain dead and brainwashed to the shit house with artificial intelligence and scientific fiction. Living in propaganda, living in placebo effect worldwide and spreading like a virus in their own truth. Thinking they know everything about life. It's so funny everyone's looking for the truth everywhere and think they know the truth at the same time because they're merely insane. Every American says, oh, how many people live in the truth? There's only about 5% of us. They don't even know what they're doing on social media platform. When they haven't got their natural process and can't think clockwise, they're idiots. They can say what they like with their grammar, but no grammar or any artificial belief system is going to get them out of this. Right? The fact is, pastors and preachers and Christians and New Age worldwide also failing because they're trapped in their skull as well. They all die prematurely from stress, the whole lot. They don't die from freedom. They don't die from natural ages. They die from stress prematurely, every single one of them. So they lie to themselves. Literally. Every pastor, every priest, every Christian dies prematurely for the same reason. For the same reason. Which means they're artificial. And they can't even cope with it. You can't even talk to a pastor or preacher. They block you straight away when you're the one. They don't care. I brought someone back to life in 1992 with 7 beer reports and CCTV, a poem written in 2003, the one and only, worldwide #1 for 8 months. And scholars have been studying this. And that's not the only one. Okay, several people died, crossed over, or brought back. And people don't believe in it. Well, they haven't got a fucking hope in hell, have they? Idiots around the world, right? Possessed by nefarious, with a voice of mine that tells me to do that goes against me. Yet I'm developed for this by your father, and I'm the only one. The only one of a kind worldwide on every study done. Rejected by 99.9% of Western civilization because they're artificial. They're beyond the point of return. Right? They have a fake belief system. Totally fake. If they had a real belief system, they know how to cure 24 hours a day. They know how to use 100% of their brain. They'd have that God-given gift in their DNA, which they don't. They don't. They don't have that kind of connection. They don't have that kind of codependent power. They don't have any real faith when they don't have it. They can say what they like. They can sit there and justify what they believe in with their book smart education, go to church and sit down and lie to themselves because that's all they do. That's all they're good for. Living in a delusional state. But they have not had a divine intervention. They have not been naturally selected in life. Only a handful of people have in the whole world, has been naturally selected with a divine intervention and divine power. And it's certainly not them. I can guarantee you that. There's only a handful of Christians in the world that's been selected through natural selection. 1.3% of the population has been naturally selected. The rest hasn't. That's only 125 million. We know with DNA, the book of life. And DNA doesn't lie, and it proves that everybody else depends on it. Which means they continue to suffer in their delusional behavior. They don't even care anymore. They haven't got any feelings anymore. Look at their real life at home. Look at how many codependent relationships they have and how many soulmate relationships they have. They haven't got any. 2 or 3 if they're lucky. And that's the real truth. They're not living in. All my life, right, I had thousands of people under my wing. Okay? I changed the whole world in Australia. Biggest mental health research ever conducted in global history, DNA study done, Royal Commission paying out for 23 years, and the Stolen Declaration being paid out $250 billion today. I changed the whole fucking world down there and brought down the highest death time in King and violence and misviolence in 30 years. My arresting officer commends me, and so did other cops, right? And so did the politicians as well. But they know the whole world's nefarious to the shithouse and the whole system. Trying to prevent us from knowing the real truth. Your cops and politicians worldwide, you know the IPP science reports in 99, right? You know the climate reports. The climate reports is about the brain. It's about artificial intelligence in here. It's about the world is going crazy because they're losing the magnetic pulse, right? They're losing all the magnetic pulse with their 6th sense going to 6th mass extinction, right? For the 6th time. Losing their 6th sense for the 6th time in the 6th mass extinction. And they don't care. Your governments went into species in denial declared in 2003. Couldn't care less. Pushed every button 7 times faster. Brought out screens straight away. Right? Straight away in 99 when they told us. Up with the screens and get people polarized in the screens straight away. And it worked like a charm. Now the whole world sits at screens, especially Americans. Completely artificial human beings in America. With the worst mental disorders and worst gene defects. And all their kids are parasites. And they're riddled with parasites at 98.7% and lie to themselves. Their aura's reverse psychology. Their aura's back to front. No matter what comes out of their fucking mouth. They can justify what they want. Their aura doesn't fucking work. So they haven't got feelings. They haven't got spirituality. They've only got mentality. Doesn't matter what comes out of their mouth. And it's accelerating in all their artificial intelligence and all their new age. They're all going to die. Every one of them's going to die from mental disorders and accelerate 7 times faster. And it's going to accelerate like you've got no idea. You're going to see things going to flash in 227. So fast you wouldn't know what hit you. Mental disorders going through the roof and people pushing the wrong buttons worldwide. Because they don't know what they're doing. They're controlled by stress, fear, anxiety, confusion, frustration, delusion, and paranoia. Okay, all they care about is money and food, right? And the fact is, the planet is going into massive extinction. Fauna's collapsing. Animals are going around circles, birds falling out of the sky warning you. And you still couldn't care less. You still live in a comfort zone to think something else. Because the voice of mind will control you that much and sounds heavily like Christ consciousness that doesn't fucking exist. It's only a personality. It's in the mind. It's mentality. And when you cure people from this kind of behavior, they don't even care. They'd rather suffer all the way to their death in some kind of delusional state, in some sort of comfort zone, to think they know better than what we do. And they're liars and deceive us worldwide. There's only 130 masterminds left in the world that can manage their whole system. They're called the elect. And the elect is leading society right now with a natural selection and a natural order. 2 masterminds in Europe and none in America. Every American can only use 15% of their brain. Mental disorder and defects going through the roof. Artificial intelligence. And they do not know what they do, no matter what comes out of their mouth. There's not one mastermind in DNA in America that can repair their clockwise DNA the way we can. Not one. Not one. On social media platform anywhere in the world, because they live in a 5 sense world. They don't live in their 6th sense. They can't use dimensional thinking. They can't use remote viewing. They sit in the screen all day. And they're creative thieves and liars. Okay, look at every platform in the world. Right? They steal contents from everyone else and make a name for themselves with content thieving. That's all they are. Every American's just a content thief. They're just a liar and a content thief. They thrive off everybody else's information. And that's what 99% of people do on social media platform. Thrive of everybody else, just like the governments do. Thrive of you as well. So now every artificial person on the screen does exactly the same thing the governments do, and the way they're told to be competitive and steal credit from everyone else to make a name for themselves, because they haven't got a clue what they're fucking doing. They're anti-clockwise as shit house. Hollywood characters, American dreamers and American spinners that chew up the whole planet and takes all the economy and couldn't care less about our kids. Couldn't give a fuck. Couldn't give a shit. They haven't got any feelings. They haven't got any real love. That's why America's got the worst DNA in the world. The worst mental disorders and the most two-faced, self-centered creatures and self-envy, self-pride. Completely artificial human beings in transhuman stage. Post-human since 1960. Cannot use their genetic memory or any of the genetic tools since 1960. They live in denial. Declared in 2003 a species in denial. Now 98%, right, suffers the human conditioning and lie about it at the same time. That's how mentally insane they are. Sitting on a screen all day, thinking they're special human beings when they're not. There's people in the streets doing something, right, and helping people every day. And they're the credit thieves sitting on a screen. The liars and credit thieves trying to make a name for themselves. Never done nothing for anyone in society. In real life, got no codependent connection with anybody. You watch people in the streets, what they do for people, compared to people on the screen, you can't even compare it. What we've done in society, for 45 years of my life, you cannot compare with any human being on earth. What I've done on the streets, to the top levels in the Gatekeeper Board, in the Star Seven Inquiry, and the most corrupt case in Australian history by Chief Judge Hughes, the biggest judge on the bench, to the very top level. What did you do? Nothing. Sat on a screen and take all the credit and credit thief for what we do. We are the Extinction Rebellion that moved 335 million shut all your capital cities down by 2019 because you're a fuckhead. Trying to stop the sixth mass extinction, stripping the sixth sense for the sixth time until the zombie apocalypse came across the planet for the 7-year lay. And that's what you're in now. We tried our best for more than 20 years to stop your artificial intelligence, but you didn't care. You didn't care at all. All you cared about was your own marketing strategy and yourself. When we shut the whole world down, and we moved since 1994 with the Extinction Rebellion, you never cared once in your fucking life. You just sat on the screen, and now you became all the credit thieves and all the self-proclaimed nutcases that are all the liars. And you follow the liars that you merely resonate with. You don't follow the Extinction Rebellion. You don't follow Jeremy Givens and 12,000 top scholars on the same page. The human conditioning and the cure of the human conditioning, because you don't care. That's how little you care with the bushman that tells you otherwise. But you're suffering. You're the one that's got no spirituality. You're the one that sold your soul out for mentality and a personality. How's that working for you? You sold your soul out, buddy. You sold your spirituality out because it doesn't work anymore. You want it back? You want to get out of here? You fucking talk to me. I'm the only one who can help you with the resurrection and stop the suffering and take you right out of your vessel so you know you're possessed by a personality that controls you. That's why Christ said, Father, forgive them, they do not know what they do. Because you don't know what you're doing. In here, in your skull, in your artificial intelligence, in your consciousness, you got no fucking idea what's controlling reality when you can only use 7 to 10% of your brain in 98.7% of all you Western cocksucking low-life liars. All your fucking grammar and all your low-life shit. All your crap, all your artificial intelligence and all your evolution mutation. 2008, my DNA leads the whole world into the cure of the human condition. My DNA. My DNA, the last human being born on earth that can do every single thing that Christ can with every study done. That's me, buddy, being rejected by 99.9% of Western civilization because they're nefarious to the shithouse. They haven't got a care factor, and all they want to do is make a name for themselves because all they care about is themselves. And they're destroying the whole world by being possessed by an outside influence that tells them to do that. Disgusting, godless, immoral creatures all over the earth, like the days of Noah and like the days of Lot. And you know what? I never had to read the Bible. I went to the biggest mental health research ever conducted with DNA studies done with my natural process, with my natural order. And the biggest think tank in the world, in the Star Seven Inquiry, declares I'm number one gatekeeper in the world. The gatekeeper of what? Godlike power. Godlike abilities. And they didn't like it. No, they didn't like that because they're all artificial robots and zombies with IQ behavior and artificial intelligence, and that's all they got. They don't like real people, nor does anybody else to come down and crunch, because they all find their own father's footsteps, their own godfathers in their DNA. That's why they suffer mental disorders and they think of God's at the same time. Atheist people always think they're God's given gift to mankind, and that's exactly how every Westerner is, because they live by the law of Gandhi. You go look up the law of Gandhi, that's the law the whole Westerners live by. From the Nordic father, the tribe of Dan, the Nordic father nations, right, the European colonization. That's their fucking rules. That's what they live by. Me, myself, and I, all about me, all about me, all about me. That's the law of Gandhi they live by. You compare that to with the natural laws of life by the Vineyard Weekly, and to love one another better than flesh. They can't live by that if they tried. Yet the Australian Aboriginal lived like that for 2 million years, with the most perfect aura and the most perfect DNA. The Christ DNA is 24 chromosomes. He was black as the ace of spades, representing the Green Mile, with the holy breath of life. Always wrapped in chains, in raggedy clothes, always accused of what Westerners guilty for. Child sex offenders and child sex porn drivers. Gay society and all dysfunction with their drugs, because they're called naked drunks. Naked drunks has destroyed everyone with alcohol, right? You see, the Nordic father nation tribe of Dan, it's your bloodline, right? Every civilization white. Okay, they follow known as family, the naked drunks, with Nimrod being the milestone. Japheth, the Nordic father nation, that Virginia, confusion and frustration worldwide, with nations and cults and religious political behavior, New Age. Crap. That's your forefathers. The tribe of Dan, Denmark, 12,000 years. The Nordic father nation of the Western European colonization that kills all the black people. Killed 15 million of Mayan jungles with the 24th chromosome. Killed them in all the Indians that had the 24th chromosome. Killed them in Africa and took them in slavery. Okay, Hitler wanted to do a coal, and America took the bombs and dropped them all over Australia and killed more than 5 million in the 40s and the 50s after draining their blood in 72,000 in Queensland in 1929 and bombed them all on the Moo Islands and East Islands and lied like filth to you. Bombed them in East Island, told you weren't there for 2,000 years. They lied. They bombed them in the 40s. They bombed the Moo Islands. They bombed the indigenous people right in Japan, not the capitals. They made a deal with them. They bombed them and killed them all in the villages in Japan, right, in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, where all that's the 24th chromosome. They killed them all the way through the Middle East and said their Netherlands out there, giants, which there still are in Australia and Solomon Islands. And they're the ones who are organic DNA. And Americans lie about and kill them all. Because that's what Westerners do. The artificial human beings kill all of them. And that's the ethnic cult that Kamari wants to do today. He says, we're going to create Hitler's plan. And that was Hitler's plan. Gilgamesh's plan. So obvious, right and funny face, not funny. But they kill every person with 24th chromosome and put you in dormancy in yours. So you know nothing about yourself. Yet that's why everyone suffers. Because they have a spirituality of the 24th chromosome, the seed of the woman. And when you're not in it, you suffer mental disorders and defects like a great God and think you're special. And you follow those footsteps every day of your life and support that system every day. If you think you're like a 500-year-old Aboriginal that's humble, that can levitate a 1-ton stone and create 10 times more fruit with 10 times more nutritious value and the most powerful soil in Mayan jungles in the outback of Australia, then you know Westerners are full of BS. They can't even grow food. They don't have that kind of aura. They don't bear that kind of fruit. They're artificial human beings. Worldwide, in transhuman states, in the zombie apocalypse, in Avian syndromes, worldwide, and body snatching virus, on reports worldwide, where they all lost their magnetic pulse, with mental disorders and defects going through the roof, with 9 parasites, delusion, parasitation, cancer, blood clots, myocarditis, and every single thing they suffer and die from. Parasites, because they're parasite personalities, a hostile entity, couldn't care less about nothing but themselves. And when we cure people, people don't even care. Don't even care. Beyond the point of return. Majority, beyond the point of return. They just want to be an actor on a screen all day and sit down and couch potato the whole day because they're fuckheads. They're artificial human beings worldwide on a screen. That's only been around 25 years. That's how stupid Westerners are. They think it's normal to sit on the screen all day. They think they're special chosen people sitting with radio waves that controls them and mind control. They're under fucking mind control when they can't use their brain. And they can't use their brain. They can't use their natural abilities. They sold their soul out. And no matter what comes out of their mouth, they have to restore it. They have to resurrect. And they don't want to. They think they're chosen by their own God. They think Christ's consciousness is real. They think the mind that sounds heavenly, right, that's only a personality, is real. That's how dumb they are. They were sucked in a time not for 700 years, and for some reason they don't think they're affected by this, with all this artificial intelligence they're brought into. They're brought into screens when they come in this world. They're brought in with radio waves, under mind control for 100 years, into the consciousness. That's why the Rockefellers put out a faith document in 1920, right? A faith document to reverse their placebo effect with a 100-year plan to be executed by 220, and it fucking worked perfectly. They lost their 20-foot chromosome by 1920. They lost their genetic process by 1960. They became polarized states, right, with radio waves and screens, and going through the Vietnamese War, right, and Cold Wars in 1980. Then they become artificial robots to fact-check Google themselves by 1999 in posthumous stage. Artificial intelligence by posthumous stage. And they live in denial about it, going to screens even for worse. In 9/11, controlled by stress and anxiety and artificial intelligence, and argue, debate, and divide all day. Because what did CIA do? They went down and started Silicon Valley and approved by Pentagon with propaganda for psychological warfare. Everything on social media platform is artificial fiction. It's artificial scientific fiction. And everybody's gone right into the screens for psychological warfare, designed for psychological warfare, to trap people in their skull, to argue, debate, and divide, and to believe in their own truth, and to manifest their own truth with radio waves, with the World Wide Web that's got them by the balls. And they don't even believe in it. They're beyond the point of return and species in denial. DNA doesn't lie. And it proves you how much they depend on and without a care factor in the world. Look at their kids. 77% born with chronic diseases because they don't care. Children today's gone up 38% in suicide rates, suicide and violence in the last fucking 2 years. They don't care about the kids. They don't care about nothing but themselves. Their parents would rather play gaming or play with their dick on sex apps, driving 7 times more porn and 7 times more data than social media platform. They don't care. They haven't got any care factor at all. They pretend they love their kids, but they wouldn't know how to. They've got no feelings. They just throw them into school to be mentally institutionalized, so they're possessed by demons in their mind like they are. That's all they care about. Artificial intelligence, that's all they care about. The governments and authorities, they love them. They love the outside influence that controls reality and gives them the information they do to fact-check Google themselves, to believe whatever they want to believe in whatever agenda they want. Self-centered agenda. Why do you think there's 36 types of fucking Christianity? Why do you think there's 12,000 types of religions? Why do you think there's fucking 2,000 different Bibles? Because they're that artificial. They mold and change the truth constantly. The scholars have changed all the Bibles because they can't think instinctively anymore. That's why they moved the book of Enoch. And the apostles, the ones that had godlike power. The ones that had all the godlike power. They removed it. Right? But they couldn't remove Christ and Moses, could they? And Abraham. But they tried their fucking best. Believe me, they've done their best to make you follow Noah and the naked drunks, because Westerners are naked drunks. You know the medieval ages that burnt the Bibles for 1,300 years, right? With the Nordic part of the nation, the Vikings. Filthy rapists and drunks. And they've been infested with naked drunks through their bloodlines for 5,000 years. Every Westerner has destroyed the pineal gland because of alcohol, and they carry it in their DNA. The last human beings born on Earth are found in a nick of time was in Australia. That's never had any alcohol poison in their pineal gland. Their pineal gland's 5 times the size of Westerners. And their phone cortex is only small because they don't live in their mind. They live with natural abilities. 450 years old, can levitate a 1-ton stone. Nature, the trees bend down and talk to them. And nature doesn't want to know Westerners because they're filthy, disgusting animals. Look at the midlights in Australia. That's the orbs like they call the watchers watching over us, right? I have a relationship with that. It came to me. That's how I was chosen. The watchers are watch over us. And they give you the power of love and give you the relationship you never had in your life. And they send every white man the best. Go and look at YouTube. They've been there for thousands of years, protecting them. Enoch went to Australia and protected the Australian Aborigines in the flood of Noah. He wrote 100 books about this, right? Being suppressed from you. The most favoured man of God, perhaps into the future, being Christ, up being perfect for 17 years, removing the Bible, right? He walked with all the ups of lights. He knew everything about dimension beings. He knew every power they were. He knew every heaven. He was the biggest mastermind of all, okay, that brought Christ up being perfect for 7 years. That's why Christ was perfect by 24, and he discovered who he was. And the first thing he said when he woke up from amnesia in the reincarnation trap was, I'm son of David, I'm son of Abraham. And I'm son of Christ, son of David, son of Abraham today with my genetic memory. And that's not my fault. It's the way that it is. It's the way that I was selected with that genetic process and that genetic memory. So I know the truth that everyone lies about. I cure people. They don't. I'm the Son of Christ that comes with a great resurrection to cure people, to cross them over in the brand new timeline. And 99% of it's going to fail, especially Westerners. They're going to the abyss. They haven't got to open hell. Not with their artificial towns and all their gods, because their gods are artificial. Have no sixth sense, have no natural abilities, because God took that away from them. All their great gods do not have mental telepathy, ESP, remote viewing, telekinesis, levitations, booming, clock winding, and deja vu. And believe me, when Elon Musk says that they're going to take it and steal the contents with their conscious singularity with mental telepathy, they haven't got a fucking open hell. Elon Musk is going to go in the abyss like the rest of them, because they live in artificial towns with an high IQ. Artificial towns with a high IQ. And when they're going to try and steal contents with the conscious singularity, right, their mind will never be able to do it. Nor will artificial intelligence. Not a hope in hell. The sixth dimension field and the sixth sense is way above the five sense world and the 5D world with their clouds. They haven't got a hope in hell. I've already proven that with AI, folding space and time, instant as inputs. They haven't got a hope in hell. They haven't got a hope in hell. They're all going to end up in hell where they belong. Every single Westerner is going to end up in hell where they belong. You wait to see what happens to these species and what they nominate and what they select themselves. While we create heaven and earth in a new dimension, to create heaven and earth, they're going to hell. And they're all going to suffer the consequences for 1,000 years, because no one ever dies. The Bible tells you that. They will suffer for 1,000 years with every decision they made. While we live in freedom of the tree of life for 1,000 years. And they suffer for 1,000 years. Because that's what they nominate. Their delusional behavior, their denial. And when they live in delusional denial, they will suffer from their artificial intelligence when they lie to everybody in the world and creates what? Treasoning worldwide to their kids. They live in treason. They live in corruption, corrosion, losing their body cells every day. Artificial human beings that lies to everyone in the world to make a name for themselves, because the only thing they care about is themselves and their own low-life opinions. But they have low-life knowledge and reliability. They don't have any. So when you trust people and mentally resonate with people, remember, your decision becomes your own reality. And when you decide to mentally resonate with species like this, you'll get what you fucking deserve and nothing more. 90% of you, right now, is suffering mental disorders to the maximum. And you've got no fucking way out of this with artificial intelligence and artificial mutation. You haven't got to open hell. We cure people. Look at the testimonies of my followers. Look at the testimonies of my followers. We cure people from mental disorder and defects and go for a transformation. The great transformation is in DNA, the book of life. Are you in it? Because you better be. Because it's the only way you're going to get through this. We teach the genuine cure of the human condition that's going to save humanity. Most people don't care. So they'll suffer the consequences from their own decisions. And the voice of mind tells them to do that. And that's going to be their problem. Because they avoid this the most. Yet God designed this with the most powerful confirmation on earth in DNA studies done. The book Freedom by Jeremy Gibbs, held by 16,000 scholars of the world, the Holy Grail of Life. Natural Selection and Natural Order. The book Freedom by Jeremy Gibbs. The most powerful Baptist in the world. John the Baptist in spirit. We're not breathing. He's won a Nobel Prize for the Holy Breath of Life to recreate the second secretion. Who's never ever had a credential, but he won a Nobel Prize. DNA is a book of life. 27 times more powerful immune system. 27 world records for superhuman abilities. For superhuman abilities that you do not have. And we are the leaders and the forefront leaders in this with DNA, with our natural selection and natural order, being avoided by 99.9% of Western civilization that thinks they know better and lie all the time because they're created thieves and liars and possessed by an outside influence that prevents them from doing this. And 99% of Western screen is possessed by an outside influence that prevents you from doing this. They do everything but. They don't even know what love is. They can't feel the truth. They come to their own conclusion with voice mind that tells them to do that, to believe in their own truth. And that's why the artificial humans all over the world going into zombie apocalypse with a body snatch virus on peer reports worldwide. They've got no magnetic pulse. They've got no EMP and tuned into power. They've got no relationship. Without that, you're screwed. When you enter yourself and you're not selfless, you're screwed. Because you're a Hollywood spinner, a Hollywood character, and you live in a personality with mentality, and you don't even care about yourself. Where's your genetic memory? Who are you? Why are you here? What's the meaning of life? You keep doing the same thing over and over in a reincarnation trap. And if you don't get out of it this time, you're going to suffer for 1,000 years because it's the last warning. We save people with the correct tools, and that's how Christ works in our DNA, our genetic process. That's how God works in our DNA, the book of life. Either in it or you're not. But that's the only way you're going to get through this, by restoring your sixth sense and your spirituality. Because the only people that have their spirituality are the only ones going to cross over in this new dimension with their genuine spirituality and not with their fucking low-life mentality. These are facts, and they're facts you're going to have to deal with. We cure people and restore their sixth sense with their spirituality and their natural process, with their natural selection and natural order. And there's no other way out of here. And we've put them through a divine intervention in 40 days, where they have a divine intervention and a divine confirmation, the most powerful confirmation you will ever have in your life, with the most powerful love ever pouring over you, with a soulmate relationship that you do not have. Do not deceive yourself. Listen to my followers. Listen to their testimonies, because they end up with a divine intervention they do not have. They end up with the most powerful confirmation that you're not getting. Think twice before you come to your final conclusion.